Picture this. You open your eyes and the world has shifted completely. The year is 1915 and you're no longer who you were just moments ago. Instead, you've awakened as Céleste Dubois, a 22-year-old flapper navigating the intoxicating underworld of Parisian nightlife. During the most turbulent decade in European history, your reflection in the cracked mirror reveals kohl-rimmed eyes, bobbed hair that scandalized your grandmother just last week, and lips stained crimson from last night's adventures in Montmartre. The Great War rages beyond the city limits. But here in your cramped apartment near the Moulin Rouge, you exist in a different reality entirely. One where absinthe flows like water and traditional morality has been cast aside like yesterday's newspaper. But this isn't just any ordinary morning in Belle Époque Paris. This is the morning that will change everything, because today you'll discover what it truly means to live on the razor's edge between ecstasy and destruction, in an era when young women like you are rewriting the rules of society, one scandalous night at a time. The brass alarm clock beside your bed reads noon, which means you've slept through most of the civilized world's morning activities. Your head pounds with the familiar rhythm of Too Much Green Fairy from the night before. The absinthe hangover is different from wine or champagne. It leaves you feeling like you're floating just above your own body, disconnected and ethereal in ways that both terrify and thrill you. Your silk stockings lie crumpled on the wooden floor beside a beaded dress that costs more than most working families see in a month. But money has never been a concern for you. Your father's textile fortune ensures that your rebellion against conventional society comes with all the finest accessories. The irony isn't lost on you that your rejection of bourgeois values is funded entirely by bourgeois success. You swing your legs over the edge of the narrow bed and immediately regret the sudden movement. The room spins gently, and for a moment you're transported back to the Café de Flore, where you spent the early hours of morning debating Dadaist poetry with a group of artists whose names you can't quite remember. Their faces blur together in a haze of cigarette smoke and intellectual pretension. But their passion for destroying traditional art forms felt revolutionary in the moment. The floorboards creak as you stand, and you catch a glimpse of yourself in the full-length mirror propped against the far wall. Your appearance would horrify the respectable women of your social class. The short skirt that barely covers your knees. The loose-fitting blouse that suggests rather than conceals your figure. And the confident posture that declares your independence to anyone brave enough to look directly at you. This is exactly what you intended when you first cut your hair and abandoned the suffocating corsets that had defined feminine respectability for generations. You wanted to shock, to challenge, to force society to confront its own hypocrisy about women's roles and capabilities. Every shortened hemline was a declaration of war against the Victorian sensibilities that had tried to cage your generation's ambitions. Your morning routine begins with the ritual that has become as essential as breathing. You retrieve the ornate absinthe spoon from its place of honor on your dressing table, along with the crystal glass that belonged to your grandmother. The irony of using family heirlooms to consume the devil's drink isn't lost on you. If anything, it makes the experience more deliciously rebellious. The absinthe bottle catches the afternoon light streaming through your window, casting green shadows across the walls of your small sanctuary. You measure out exactly 1 ounce of the emerald liquid, watching it pool in the bottom of the glass like liquid jade. The sugar cube balances perfectly on the slotted spoon, and you begin the slow, meditative process of dripping ice-cold water over it. As the water dissolves the sugar and mingles with the absinthe, the clear liquid transforms into an opalescent cloud that the French call the louche. This moment of transformation never fails to mesmerize you. It's like watching magic happen in real time, the way the transparent spirit becomes milky and mysterious with just the addition of water. You've heard the stories about absinthe driving people mad, about hallucinations and violent behavior attributed to the Green Fairy's influence. But your experience has been different. The drink doesn't make you crazy. Instead, it makes you feel more yourself than ever before, more creative, more confident, more willing to speak truths that polite society prefers to keep hidden. The first sip hits your tongue with a complex blend of anise, fennel, and wormwood that most people find overwhelming. But you've developed a sophisticated palate for the nuances of different absinthe brands. This particular bottle came from a small distillery in Switzerland, smuggled into Paris by a dealer who specializes in providing the finest spirits to the city's most discerning bohemians. As the liquid courage spreads through your system, you begin to feel the familiar loosening of inhibitions that makes your evening adventures possible. The world becomes slightly more vivid, colors more saturated, sounds more musical. It's not intoxication in the crude sense that beer or wine provides. Instead, it's like someone has adjusted the contrast on reality itself. You dress carefully for the day ahead, selecting each piece of your outfit like a warrior choosing armor. The drop-waist dress in deep purple silk makes a statement about your rejection of traditional feminine silhouettes. The T-bar shoes with their scandalously low heels allow you to dance until dawn without collapsing from exhaustion. The long strand of pearls can be worn multiple ways, depending on your mood and the company you're keeping. Your makeup application is an art form in itself. The kohl around your eyes isn't just cosmetic enhancement, it's war paint for the battle you're fighting against, a society that wants to keep women silent and subservient. The dark circles you create make your eyes appear larger and more mysterious, giving you the exotic look that drives men wild and makes other women whisper behind their fans. The rouge on your lips is applied with precision that would impress a master painter. You've studied the faces of actresses and cabaret performers, learning how to use cosmetics to create different personas for different occasions. Tonight, you might be the innocent ingénue or the dangerous temptress, depending on what the evening requires. Your reflection stares back at you from the mirror, and for a moment you hardly recognize yourself. 6 months ago, you were still playing the role of dutiful daughter, attending charity luncheons, and accepting the courtship of young men your parents deemed suitable. The transformation has been so complete that sometimes you wonder if that earlier version of yourself was just a costume you wore to please other people. The truth is more complicated than simple rebellion. You didn't abandon respectability just to shock your family or gain attention from the artistic community. You cast off those constraints because they were suffocating the person you were meant to become. Every rule you've broken, every boundary you've crossed, has brought you closer to understanding who Celeste Dubois really is. Beneath all the expectations and assumptions, your apartment reflects this journey of self-discovery. The walls are covered with paintings by artists whose work won't be appreciated by mainstream society for decades to come. Abstract compositions that capture the chaos and beauty of modern life. Portraits that reveal psychological truths rather than physical accuracy. Landscapes that represent emotional states rather than geographical locations. Books are scattered everywhere, creating small towers of intellectual exploration that threaten to topple at the slightest touch. Poetry by Guillaume Apollinaire sits beside philosophical treatises by Henri Bergson novels, by Colette Sharespace, with political pamphlets advocating for women's suffrage. Your reading habits would scandalize the ladies who used to invite you to their tea parties. The gramophone in the corner plays the latest ragtime recordings imported from America, along with experimental compositions by Eric Satie that challenge everything you thought you knew about music. The sounds provide a constant backdrop to your daily existence, reminding you that art and beauty can emerge from the most unexpected sources if you're brave enough to listen with open ears. Your collection of absinthe accessories has grown into an impressive display of Art Nouveau craftsmanship. Each spoon tells a story about the evening when you acquired it. The silver one, with the intricate floral design, came from a poet who traded it for a kiss after reciting his latest work at the Café de la Rotonde. The brass one, shaped like a dancing figure, was a gift from a Russian émigré who claimed it once belonged to a famous ballerina. These objects aren't just tools for consuming alcohol. They're talismans that connect you to a community of fellow rebels who have chosen to live outside conventional society's boundaries. Each piece represents a moment of connection with someone who understood that life is too short and too precious to waste on other people's expectations. The afternoon sun, streaming through your window, illuminates dust motes dancing in the air, like tiny spirits celebrating their freedom from gravity. You watch them swirl and drift, seeing in their random movements a metaphor for your own liberation from the predetermined path your family had mapped out for your future. The sound of horse-drawn carriages clattering over cobblestones drifts up from the street below, mixing with the distant melody of an accordion player earning coins from passers-by. This is the soundtrack of your new existence, a symphony of urban life that pulses with energy despite the war that haunts the edges of everyone's consciousness. You gather your velvet clutch purse, checking that it contains the essentials for navigating Parisian society in 1915. A few francs for cafe visits, a silver compact mirror for touch-ups between adventures, and a small vial of laudanum that serves as both medicine and social currency in certain circles. The tiny bottle represents another boundary you've crossed, another way you've embraced experiences that would horrify your former self. The narrow staircase leading down to the street creaks under your feet as you descend from your third-floor sanctuary. Each step carries you further from the safety of your private world and deeper into the unpredictable theatre of Parisian street life. The building's other residents remain mysteries to you, their lives hidden behind closed doors and whispered conversations in languages you don't recognize. Outside, the afternoon air carries scents that define your new reality. Freshly baked bread from the boulangerie mingles with cigarette smoke and the metallic tang of industrial progress. Horse manure and expensive perfume create an olfactory cocktail that somehow perfectly captures the contradictions of modern urban existence. Your destination today is the Café de la Paix, where intellectual discussions unfold like elaborate theatrical performances. The establishment has become your informal office, the place where you conduct the business of becoming whoever you're meant to be. The waiters know your preferences, the other regulars accept your presence, and the atmosphere encourages the kind of conversations that reshape how you understand the world. Walking through the streets of Montmartre, you pass women whose lives represent different choices, different compromises with society's expectations. The working-class seamstresses hurrying to their shops, their faces marked by exhaustion and resignation. The bourgeois wives shopping for their families, their movements constrained by corsets and propriety. The prostitutes beginning their evening preparations, their survival dependent on understanding male desires better than most wives ever will. Each group watches the others with varying degrees of curiosity, judgment, and envy. You've learned to read these glances, to understand the complex social mathematics that governs how women navigate public spaces. Your appearance places you in a category that didn't exist when your mother was your age. You're neither respectable nor disreputable in traditional terms, but something entirely new that society hasn't figured out how to classify or control. The cafe's interior welcomes you with warm lighting and the comfortable buzz of animated conversation. You claim your usual table near the window, a strategic position that allows you to observe both the street scene outside and the social dynamics unfolding within. The marble-topped table becomes your command center for the afternoon's activities. Your regular waiter, Henri, approaches with a knowing smile. He's witnessed your transformation over the months, watching you evolve from a nervous newcomer to a confident regular who belongs in this world of artists and intellectuals. His discretion is absolute, his service impeccable, and his tips generous enough to ensure his continued loyalty. The absinthe ritual begins again, but this time, it's a public performance rather than a private ceremony. Other patrons watch with interest as you demonstrate your expertise with the sugar cube and dripping water. Some regard the process with admiration, others with suspicion, but everyone recognizes that you're participating in something that carries cultural significance beyond simple alcohol consumption. As the green liquid transforms into its cloudy incarnation, you feel yourself settling into the persona that allows you to thrive in this environment. Céleste Dubois. The dutiful daughter disappears completely, replaced by Céleste Dubois, the free-spirited intellectual who can debate philosophy with poets and match wits with the most sophisticated minds in Paris. The first familiar face to join you belongs to Marcel, a painter whose canvases capture the fragmented reality of modern life in ways that traditional art schools would condemn as incompetent. His clothing bears paint stains that serve as badges of honor in artistic circles, proof that he's actually creating rather than just talking about creativity. Marcel's conversation flows like his brushstrokes, unpredictable and passionate. He describes his latest work in progress, a portrait series focusing on women who've rejected conventional roles. His enthusiasm for the project makes his eyes shine with the fervor of someone who believes art can change how society understands itself. You become his latest subject almost without realizing it. His questions probe beyond surface appearances, seeking to understand what drives someone to abandon security for uncertainty, comfort for adventure. His artist's eye sees details that others miss. The tension in your shoulders that reveals ongoing internal struggles. The defiance in your posture that masks occasional moments of doubt. The afternoon unfolds in layers of conversation that spiral through topics ranging from the war's impact on artistic expression to the changing roles of women in modern society. Each new arrival at your table brings different perspectives, different pieces of the puzzle you're assembling to understand your place in this rapidly changing world. Simone arrives with news from the underground literary scene, describing poetry readings held in basement venues where experimental work finds audiences willing to embrace radical new forms of expression. Her own writing explores themes of female sexuality and independence that mainstream publishers refuse to consider, making her both celebrated and notorious within artistic circles. The discussion turns to the peculiar freedom that wartime has created for women like yourselves. Traditional social structures have been disrupted by the conflict, creating spaces for behavior that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. Men are away fighting, leaving women to manage responsibilities previously considered beyond their capabilities. Jacques joins the group with updates from his connections in the theatre world, describing productions that push boundaries of taste and decency in ways that reflect society's broader upheaval. His stories of backstage drama and artistic feuds provide entertainment while illustrating the high stakes involved in challenging established cultural norms. The absinthe continues to flow, each glass adding another layer of clarity to conversations that might seem incomprehensible to outsiders. The drink doesn't impair your judgment so much as it removes the filters that usually prevent you from speaking uncomfortable truths about art, politics, and human nature. As evening approaches, the cafe's atmosphere shifts subtly. The afternoon intellectuals begin departing, replaced by a different crowd seeking different pleasures. The lighting grows dimmer, the conversations more intimate, the possibilities more dangerous and appealing. Your reflection in the cafe window shows a woman transformed not just by costume and cosmetics, but by the confidence that comes from living authentically rather than performing respectability. The person staring back at you bears little resemblance to the sheltered young woman who once worried about minor social transgressions. The green fairy has become more than just a drink or a symbol of rebellion. It's transformed into a gateway to experiences and insights that remain inaccessible to those who insist on maintaining conventional boundaries. Each sip opens new possibilities for understanding yourself and the world around you. Your companions begin making plans for the evening's adventures, discussing venues where the night's real education will unfold. Underground clubs where jazz music creates rhythms that make traditional waltzes seem quaint and outdated. Private salons where conversations continue until dawn, fueled by substances that enhance both perception and courage. The decision of where to go next carries weight beyond simple entertainment preferences. Each choice will expose you to different influences, different ideas, different versions of who you might become. The freedom to make these choices represents everything you've gained by rejecting the predetermined path your family expected you to follow. The evening beckons with promises that daylight could never fulfill. Your companions' voices weave together like smoke rising from countless cigarettes, each suggestion more intriguing than the last. The choice before you isn't simply about entertainment. It's about which version of yourself you'll become before the sun rises again. Marcel suggests beginning at Le Lapin Agile, where Picasso himself has been known to sketch portraits on napkins in exchange for drinks. The cabaret's reputation for hosting the most provocative performances in Montmartre makes it a natural gathering place for those who've abandoned conventional taste. Tonight's program promises a mixture of poetry, music, and theatrical experiments that will either enlighten or scandalize. Depending on your perspective, Simone advocates for something more intimate, a private gathering in the apartment of Madame Dubois, a wealthy widow who opens her salon to artists and intellectuals every Tuesday evening. The conversations there tend toward the philosophical, fueled by imported wines, and the kind of intellectual freedom that only emerges when social climbing becomes irrelevant. Her collection of banned books provides reading material that challenges every assumption about literature, politics, and human nature. Jacques proposes the most dangerous option, an underground establishment known only as Le Caveau, where the entertainment pushes boundaries that legitimate venues wouldn't dare approach. The performances there blend art with transgression in ways that leave audiences questioning everything they thought they understood about morality and desire. Police raids are always a possibility, adding an element of genuine danger to the evening's pleasures. Your decision crystallizes as you drain the last drops of absinthe from your glass. The familiar burn reminds you that every meaningful choice carries risks alongside its rewards. Tonight, you'll follow your instincts toward whatever promises the most authentic experience. Consequences be damned. The group disperses briefly to gather coats and make final preparations, agreeing to reconvene in 30 minutes. This interlude provides time for reflection about how dramatically your existence has transformed since embracing this nocturnal lifestyle. 6 months ago, your greatest concern was selecting appropriate gloves for afternoon tea. Now you're debating whether to attend underground performances that could result in arrest or social exile. The transformation required more than simply changing your appearance or adopting shocking habits. It demanded a complete reconstruction of your relationship with fear, shame, and social approval. Every shortened skirt was a small victory over internalized restrictions. Every public consumption of absinthe declared your independence from others' opinions about feminine propriety. Walking back toward your apartment to collect a warmer shawl, you encounter Madame Rousseau, your former neighbor from the respectable district where your family still maintains their primary residence. Her expression combines horror, fascination, and what might be envy as she takes in your appearance. The encounter lasts only moments, but it serves as a stark reminder of the bridge you've burned in pursuing authenticity over acceptance. Her whispered prayers for your soul follow you down the cobblestone street, but they carry no power to shame you back into conformity. If anything, her disapproval confirms that you've succeeded in escaping the suffocating world that would have slowly strangled your spirit with kindness and respectability. Back in your apartment, you select accessories that will serve as armor for the evening's adventures. The beaded headband that catches light and draws attention to your unconventional hairstyle. The silk gloves that can be removed to reveal hands capable of applauding scandalous performances. The small silver flask filled with absinthe. Insurance against venues that might not stock your preferred libation. Your reflection in the mirror shows someone prepared for whatever the night might bring. The nervous young woman who once required her mother's approval for every social engagement has been replaced by someone who creates her own entertainment and accepts responsibility for her own choices. The transformation feels complete, irreversible, and absolutely necessary for your survival as an authentic human being. The streets of Montmartre take on different characteristics as evening deepens into night. Legitimate businesses close their doors, while establishments catering to nocturnal appetites begin their real operations. The shift creates opportunities for encounters and experiences that daylight society pretends don't exist. Street vendors offer items that range from practical necessities to exotic substances whose effects remain mysterious until tested. Your companions await you at the designated corner, their excitement palpable in the cool night air. Marcel has added a colourful scarf that marks him as someone unconcerned with masculine fashion conventions. Simone wears a coat that conceals clothing choices she'll reveal only in appropriate company. Jacques carries a walking stick that serves both practical and theatrical purposes, marking him as someone who understands that life itself can be performance art. The decision about your destination emerges through a process that resembles democracy, filtered through artistic sensibility. Each option offers different risks and rewards, different opportunities for growth and revelation. Your vote tips the balance toward the choice that promises the most complete abandonment of conventional boundaries. Le Caveau calls to you with its promise of experiences that can't be replicated in respectable venues. The establishment's reputation for hosting performances that blur the lines between art and transgression makes it irresistible to someone committed to exploring every aspect of human possibility. If the evening ends in scandal or arrest, at least it will end memorably. The journey through Montmartre's winding streets becomes a pilgrimage toward enlightenment through experience. Each step carries you further from the world of predetermined expectations and closer to encounters that will challenge everything you think you know about art, desire, and personal freedom. The absinthe in your system provides courage without dulling awareness, enhancing rather than numbing your capacity for genuine response to whatever awaits. Street musicians provide soundtrack for your procession through the district's maze of narrow alleys and hidden courtyards. Their melodies blend traditional French folk songs with exotic rhythms imported from distant colonies, creating musical fusion that reflects the cultural mixing occurring throughout the arrondissement. The sounds suggest possibilities for artistic expression that transcend national and cultural boundaries. Other groups of night wanderers pass you heading toward their own chosen destinations. Some are clearly tourists, seeking sanitized glimpses of bohemian culture. Others appear to be serious devotees of whatever underground scene has captured their imagination. The diversity of evening pilgrims confirms that conventional society's grip on individual behavior has loosened considerably since the war began. Your conversation with companions continues to evolve as you walk, touching on topics that would scandalize dinner party guests in respectable districts. The freedom to discuss sexuality, politics, and artistic experimentation without euphemism or apology represents one of the greatest benefits of rejecting mainstream social acceptance. Truth becomes possible when reputation no longer matters. Marcel describes his latest painting technique, which involves applying pigment while under the influence of various substances to capture altered perceptions of color and form. His experiments produce canvases that conventional critics dismiss as incompetent, but which reveal emotional truths that realistic representation can never convey. The work sells to collectors who understand that artistic innovation requires abandoning established techniques. Simone shares excerpts from her current writing project, a novel exploring female sexuality with frankness that makes published literature seem juvenile and dishonest. Her protagonist navigates relationships and desires without the moral constraints that traditional fiction imposes on female characters. The work will never find mainstream publication, but it captures experiences that thousands of women recognize as authentic. Jacques regales the group with stories from theatrical rehearsals where actors explore psychological territories that legitimate drama avoids. The productions challenge audiences to confront uncomfortable aspects of human nature While providing cathartic experiences that conventional entertainment cannot match, his descriptions make clear that art's highest function involves disturbing rather than comforting its audience. The flask of absinthe passes between you as you walk, each sip reinforcing the bond that connects people willing to risk everything for authentic experience. The shared consumption creates temporary community among individuals who've chosen isolation from mainstream society. The ritual confirms that you've found your tribe among those who prioritize truth over comfort. Approaching Le Caveau requires navigating an increasingly complex network of streets that seem designed to discourage casual visitors. The establishment's location in Montmartre's most remote quarter ensures that only determined seekers will discover its offerings. The journey itself serves as initiation, separating genuine devotees from merely curious tourists. The building housing Le Caveau appears unremarkable from the street, its facade revealing nothing about the revolutionary activities occurring within. Only the subtle chalk marks on nearby walls indicate that you've found the correct address. The coded symbols represent a form of underground communication that connects artistic rebels throughout the district, descending narrow stairs toward the establishment's basement location. You feel anticipation building like electricity before a thunderstorm. The air grows thick with cigarette smoke, an exotic incense that suggests experiences awaiting discovery. Voices speaking multiple languages drift up from below, confirming that tonight's gathering will bring together individuals from across Europe's artistic underground. The entrance fee is paid not in coins, but in passwords that demonstrate your commitment to the evening's possibilities. Your companions provide the necessary phrases, their familiarity with the requirements confirming their status as genuine members of this alternative community. The exchange feels like crossing a threshold from ordinary existence into something approaching sacred space. Inside, the atmosphere combines elements of religious ceremony with theatrical performance. Candles provide the only illumination, casting dancing shadows that transform faces into constantly shifting masks. The audience includes individuals whose appearances range from elegant to shocking, united only by their shared rejection of conventional entertainment options. Your table near the improvised stage provides excellent views of both the performances and the audience reactions. The positioning allows you to observe how art affects different individuals, while participating fully in whatever experiences the evening provides. The absinthe you order arrives in glasses that have witnessed countless previous revelations and transformations. The first performer takes the stage carrying nothing but a violin and an intensity that immediately captures everyone's attention. Her music begins with recognizable melodies before evolving into improvisations that seem to channel emotions directly from her subconscious. The sound creates a trance-like state that makes ordinary consciousness seem limited and artificial. As the violin's voice fills the intimate space, you feel your awareness expanding beyond normal boundaries. The music doesn't simply entertain, but transforms, opening perceptual doors that remain closed during daylight hours. The absinthe amplifies the effect, creating synesthesia that allows you to see sounds and hear colors in ways that rational thought would dismiss as impossible. The audience responds with appreciation that goes beyond polite applause. Some individuals appear to be experiencing genuine religious ecstasy, their faces reflecting transcendence that organized religion rarely achieves. Others weep openly, overwhelmed by emotions that the music has unlocked from carefully guarded psychological chambers. Your own response surprises you with its intensity. The combination of artistic excellence, chemical enhancement, and social permission to abandon restraint creates opportunities for self-discovery that conventional life carefully prevents you. Feel connected not only to the performer, but to every person in the room, united by shared participation in something approaching mystical experience. The second act brings a poet whose words challenge every assumption about language's proper function. His verses abandon traditional meter and rhyme in favor of rhythms that mirror heartbeats and breathing patterns. The content explores territories that published literature avoids, describing physical and emotional experiences with honesty that makes conventional poetry seem sanitized and lifeless. Between performances, conversations flow like water finding new channels after spring floods. Strangers become intimate confidants within minutes. The artificial barriers that separate individuals in respectable society, dissolving under the influence of art and absinthe personal histories, are shared without shame or reservation, creating temporary communities based on mutual recognition rather than social credentials. Marcel's sketches constantly throughout the evening, capturing not just faces, but the emotional atmosphere that conventional portraiture never attempts. His drawings reveal psychological truths that photographs cannot convey, showing how artistic experience transforms ordinary individuals into something approaching their essential selves. The sketches become gifts exchanged among new friends who understand that such documentation serves memorial functions. Community sheaths become gifts. Your sketchbook fills with faces that reveal more truth than any photograph could capture. The woman at the corner table whose laughter masks profound loneliness. The young man whose passionate gestures betray desperate hunger for recognition. The elderly gentleman whose knowing smile suggests secrets that could topple governments. Each drawing becomes a window into souls that daylight society forces people to keep carefully hidden. The third performer emerges from the shadows like a creature born from collective unconscious desires. Her dance begins as classical ballet before dissolving into movements that seem to originate from some primal source deeper than formal training. Her body becomes an instrument for expressing emotions that language cannot touch, desires that polite conversation cannot acknowledge. The audience falls silent as her performance builds towards something that transcends entertainment. This isn't merely artistic expression, but ritual invocation of forces that civilization works constantly to suppress. Your pulse synchronizes with rhythms she creates through pure movement. Your breathing matches the rise and fall of her gestures. The absinthe makes every motion appear to leave luminous trails in the air, like green fire writing messages in a language older than words. Her final pose holds the room suspended in anticipation that feels almost unbearable. The silence stretches until someone begins applauding with reverence, usually reserved for religious ceremonies. The sound breaks whatever spell had been woven, but the after effects continue rippling through consciousness like stones thrown into still water. Between acts, you step outside for air that carries scents of night-blooming flowers mixed with coal smoke from distant factories. The contrast between Le Caveau's underground intensity and the ordinary street above creates vertigo that has nothing to do with alcohol consumption. Two worlds exist simultaneously in the same physical space, separated only by awareness and willingness to cross invisible thresholds. Simone joins you in the narrow alley, her face glowing with excitement that makes her appear years younger. The evening's performances have awakened something in her that conventional entertainment could never reach. She describes sensations of creative inspiration that feel like electrical current running through her nervous system. Her next writing project will attempt to capture these experiences before memory inevitably begins filtering and sanitizing them. Jacques appears with news that tonight's final performance will feature someone known only as the Magician, whose reputation extends throughout Europe's underground artistic networks. His presentations allegedly blur boundaries between theatre and actual supernatural phenomena in ways that leave audiences questioning fundamental assumptions about reality itself. Local authorities have attempted to arrest him multiple times, but he always seems to vanish before raids can be completed. Returning to your table, you notice that the audience has grown more diverse and intense during your absence. Individuals whose appearances suggest connections to aristocratic families sit beside working-class artists whose clothing bears paint stains and creative poverty. Underground journalists scribble notes that will never appear in mainstream publications. Foreign visitors whose accents suggest they've traveled considerable distances to witness whatever revelation awaits. The absinthe glass refilled during your absence contains liquid that appears slightly different from previous servings. The color seems deeper, more saturated, with opalescent qualities that shift depending on viewing angle. Henri. The waiter catches your questioning glance and simply nods toward the stage with expressions suggesting that some experiences require enhanced preparation. The first sip confirms your suspicion that this isn't ordinary absinthe. The familiar anise flavor carries undertones of herbs and substances that create effects beyond simple alcohol intoxication. Your vision sharpens while simultaneously becoming more dreamlike. Colors gain intensity that makes gaslight appear brilliant as sunshine. Sounds develop texture you can almost touch with your fingertips. Marcel notices the change immediately, his artist's eye detecting alterations in your expression and posture. His knowing smile suggests he's consumed similar preparations during previous visits to Le Caveau. The establishment apparently maintains supplies of substances that enhance appreciation for performances requiring expanded consciousness to fully comprehend. The magician's entrance defies every expectation you've formed about theatrical presentation. Rather than dramatic revelation, he simply materializes at center stage, as if he'd been standing there all along, and everyone had somehow failed to notice. His appearance suggests neither youth nor age, but something outside temporal categories entirely. Clothing that might be elegant evening wear or elaborate costume creates ambiguity about whether you're witnessing performance or genuine supernatural encounter. His voice, when he speaks, carries harmonics that seem impossible for human vocal cords to produce. The words themselves are French, but they resonate with meanings that extend beyond literal interpretation. He discusses the nature of reality as if describing weather conditions, making statements about consciousness and perception that challenge every assumption about existence itself. Without apparent effort, objects begin moving around the stage in patterns that defy gravitational laws. Candles float through air like luminous fish swimming through invisible water. Playing cards shuffle themselves into formations that create geometric mandalas. Wine pours upward from bottles into glasses suspended impossibly above them. The effects appear too subtle for stage magic, yet too consistent for mass hallucination. Your enhanced state makes it impossible to distinguish between external phenomena and internal experience. The boundary between observer and observed dissolves until you feel personally involved in whatever reality the magician is creating or revealing. Time becomes elastic, stretching moments into eternities while compressing entire sequences into single heartbeats. He begins involving audience members in demonstrations that blur lines between entertainment and initiation into mysteries that conventional education never acknowledges. Volunteers discover abilities they never knew they possessed. A shy seamstress accurately describes events occurring in distant locations. A skeptical banker begins speaking languages he's never studied. A proper housewife channels poetry that would scandalize her usual social circle. When the magician's attention turns toward your table, rational thought becomes impossible. His eyes seem to perceive layers of identity that you've never consciously recognized. Under his gaze, the carefully constructed persona of Céleste Dubois begins dissolving like sugar in absinthe, revealing aspects of self that exist beyond social roles and family expectations. He invites you to join him on stage with gesture that makes refusal inconceivable. Standing becomes floating, walking becomes gliding through space that has transformed from ordinary room into cosmic theater. The audience faces watching from below appear simultaneously distant and intimately connected, their expressions reflecting your own sense of expanding beyond normal human limitations. The magician places your hands on objects that feel simultaneously solid and ethereal. crystal spheres that contain swirling galaxies, mirrors that reflect not your physical appearance, but emotional states rendered visible books whose pages turn themselves while displaying text that changes meaning as you read it. Each contact creates electrical sensations that travel through your entire nervous system. Under his guidance, you begin perceiving connections between seemingly unrelated phenomena. The rhythm of heartbeats synchronizes with planetary movements. Individual thoughts merge into collective consciousness that includes everyone present. Personal memories blend with historical events you never witnessed, but somehow remember experiencing. The boundaries that normally define individual existence become suggestions rather than absolute limitations. The experience reaches crescendo when the magician asks you to demonstrate abilities you didn't know you possessed. Without conscious intention, your voice begins producing sounds that affect the emotional states of listeners. Your movements create patterns that influence the behavior of candle flames and floating objects. Your touch causes flowers to bloom from apparently dead stems. The effects feel natural rather than supernatural, as if you're simply remembering capabilities that civilization taught you to forget. Returning to your table afterward, you find yourself fundamentally altered by whatever has just occurred. The other patrons regard you with mixture of awe and recognition, as if you've joined some invisible fraternity through your stage experience. Marcel's sketching hand moves frantically to capture your transformed appearance. Simone takes notes for writing projects that will attempt to describe experiences. Language wasn't designed to convey. The evening's final act brings everyone together in collective ritual that transcends individual performances. The magician conducts the entire audience in activities that create temporary community based on shared expansion beyond ordinary consciousness. Voices blend into harmonies that seem to alter the acoustic properties of the space itself. Movements synchronize into dances that channel energies older than recorded history. The Absinthe's effects reach their peak during this communal ceremony, dissolving the last barriers between self and others. Individual identity becomes optional rather than fixed, allowing you to experience existence from perspectives belonging to other participants. The seamstress's exhaustion, the banker's hidden creativity, the housewife's suppressed rebellion all become temporarily accessible to your awareness. As the evening winds toward its inevitable conclusion, you realize that no amount of description could convey tonight's experiences to someone who wasn't present. The events exist outside normal categories of explanation, belonging to territories that rational discourse cannot map. The memories will fade and distort over time, but something essential will remain permanently altered in your understanding of what human consciousness can encompass. The audience disperses gradually, individuals reluctant to abandon the temporary paradise, created through collective artistic experience. Some exchange contact information for future gatherings. Others disappear into Montmartre's labyrinthine streets without farewell. The community that formed tonight was always intended to be ephemeral, its value lying in intensity rather than duration. Walking back through empty streets with your original companions, conversation flows in whispers that acknowledge the sacred nature of what you've witnessed. Normal voice volume would feel like profanation after the evening's revelations. The ordinary world appears simultaneously unchanged and completely transformed, as if you're seeing familiar surroundings through new eyes that perceive hidden dimensions of beauty and meaning. Your apartment building looks different when you finally reach its entrance. The mundane structure now appears to exist within larger patterns of significance that extend through time and space. The key turns in your lock with sound that resonates like temple bell, opening doorway to sanctuary that has been sanctified by your transformation. Inside, your possessions seem to have rearranged themselves during your absence, though nothing has actually moved. The paintings on your walls now reveal meanings that were invisible before tonight's initiation into expanded awareness. Books beckon with promises of wisdom that previous readings had missed. Even ordinary objects like mirrors and candlesticks suggest possibilities for further exploration of consciousness territories. Preparing for sleep, you catch sight of your reflection and barely recognize the person staring back. The physical appearance remains unchanged, but something fundamental has shifted in your relationship with your own identity. Céleste Dubois. The rebellious flapper has evolved into someone whose possibilities extend far beyond social categories or family expectations. The absinthe's effects are beginning to fade, but the insights gained through enhanced perception remain vivid and accessible. You understand now that the green fairy serves as key rather than destination, opening doors to experiences that exist independently of any chemical catalyst. Tonight's revelations will influence every future choice about how to spend your remaining time in this incarnation. Your bed feels like launching pad for dreams that will continue the evening's explorations in realms where physical laws become suggestions and individual consciousness merges with universal awareness. Sleep becomes meditation. Rest becomes preparation for tomorrow's adventures in the ongoing project of discovering who you really are beneath all the layers of social conditioning. The last conscious thought before dreams claim you involves gratitude for the courage to abandon everything safe and predictable in pursuit of authentic experience. The teenage girl who once worried about proper glove selection has been replaced by someone willing to risk everything for moments of genuine revelation. The transformation required sacrifice of security, but the rewards have exceeded every possible expectation. Morning will bring return to ordinary consciousness and the necessity of navigating conventional reality. But tonight's experiences have provided glimpses of territories that remain perpetually accessible to those brave enough to seek them. The door has been opened, the threshold crossed, the initiation completed. Your dreams that night feature landscapes composed entirely of swirling absinthe and dancing shadows, where conversations with historical figures blend seamlessly with flights through impossible architectures built from crystallized music and solidified moonbeams. In these visions, every person you've ever known appears simultaneously as themselves and as archetypal representatives of universal human experiences. The green fairy visits your sleeping consciousness not as external entity, but as aspect of your own expanded awareness, offering guidance for navigating the complex territories that exist between waking and dreaming states. Her whispered instructions provide maps for future explorations, while warning about dangers that await unprepared travelers in realms where ordinary rules no longer apply. When dawn finally penetrates your consciousness, the transition back to mundane awareness feels like descent from mountaintop to valley floor. The memories of night's revelations remain intact, but seem to exist in different category of experience than normal recollection. They feel simultaneously real and mythical, factual and symbolic, personal and universal. Your morning absinthe ritual takes on new significance after last night's expanded encounter with the green fairy's full potential. Each drop of water transforming the clear liquid into opalescent clouds now represents possibility for accessing states of consciousness that conventional society insists are impossible or dangerous. The drink has revealed itself as sacrament rather than mere intoxicant. The reflection in your morning mirror shows someone who has crossed irreversible threshold into territories that most people spend entire lifetimes avoiding. The physical appearance remains unchanged, but the eyes now hold knowledge that cannot be unlearned or forgotten. You've seen behind the curtain that conceals reality's deeper structures, and that vision will influence every future decision about how to live authentically. Your apartment has become launching pad for explorations that will continue expanding throughout your remaining time as Céleste Dubois. The books, paintings, and absinthe accessories now serve as tools for ongoing research into consciousness, rather than mere decorative objects. Every item holds potential for facilitating further revelations about the nature of existence and your place within its infinite complexities. The streets of Montmartre beckon with promises of additional adventures that will build upon last night's foundation. Each cafe, each gallery, each underground venue represents opportunity for deeper understanding of the artistic revolution transforming European culture. Your role in this movement has evolved from observer to participant to something approaching priestess of new ways of experiencing reality. The war that rages beyond Paris continues shaping the context within which your personal transformation unfolds. The proximity of death makes every moment of authentic experience precious beyond calculation. Traditional social structures crumble under pressure of historical forces, creating spaces for experiments in living that previous generations could never have attempted. Your correspondence with family members will require careful navigation to avoid revealing the full extent of your metamorphosis. The conventional language they understand cannot accommodate descriptions of consciousness, expansion, or mystical experience without triggering concerns about your sanity or moral condition. The letters you write will necessarily represent only surface manifestations of deeper transformations. The community of fellow travelers you've discovered through your nocturnal adventures provides support network that makes continued exploration possible. These individuals understand the risks and rewards of abandoning conventional boundaries in pursuit of authentic experience. Their shared commitment to artistic truth creates bonds stronger than family connections or social obligations. Your future stretches ahead like unexplored territory, filled with possibilities that conventional life would never have offered. Each day will bring opportunities for new forms of creative expression, deeper understanding of consciousness, and more complete integration of the insights gained through your ongoing initiation into mysteries that academic education never acknowledges. The absinthe that flows through your daily routine has become sacramental wine for religion of expanded awareness. Each glass represents communion with forces that exist beyond ordinary perception, but remain perpetually accessible to those willing to risk everything for authentic revelation. The Green Fairy has revealed herself as guide rather than destroyer, leading devoted followers toward territories of consciousness that contain treasures beyond imagination. Your transformation from dutiful daughter to liberated explorer of reality represents just the beginning of a journey that will continue evolving throughout your incarnation as someone brave enough to choose truth over comfort, experience over security, authenticity over acceptance. The teenage girl who once feared social disapproval has been replaced by a woman who understands that genuine life requires constant willingness to transcend previous limitations. The morning sun streaming through your window illuminates dust motes that dance like spirits celebrating their liberation from gravitational constraints. These tiny particles reflect your own freedom from social forces that once seemed as unchangeable as physical laws. Everything that appeared solid and permanent has revealed itself as temporary arrangement of energy that can be restructured through sufficient understanding and courage. Your daily preparations now serve as rituals preparing you for continued exploration of territories that exist at intersection of individual consciousness and universal awareness. Each choice of clothing, each application of cosmetics, each selection of accessories contributes to creating persona capable of navigating experiences that would overwhelm someone still attached to conventional identity. The adventure that began with simple rebellion against family expectations has evolved into systematic investigation of reality's hidden dimensions. The Green Fairy has proven to be a faithful guide through territories that conventional maps never chart, leading you toward discoveries that will influence not only your remaining time as Céleste Dubois, but whatever forms of existence await beyond this particular incarnation. The streets of Montmartre pulse with an energy that seems to emanate from the very cobblestones beneath your feet. As you navigate the winding pathways that have become your daily pilgrimage routes, you notice how the district has developed its own rhythm distinct from the rest of Paris. The conventional world operates on schedules dictated by factory whistles and church bells, but here time flows according to artistic inspiration and the availability of quality absinthe. Your first stop is always the same small cafe tucked between a used bookstore and a shop selling exotic fabrics imported from French colonies. The proprietor, Monsieur Beaumont, has learned to expect your arrival precisely when respectable citizens are finishing their morning prayers. His establishment caters to the district's nocturnal population, serving breakfast to individuals whose idea of early rising coincides with most people's lunch hour. The morning clientele reflects the diversity that makes Montmartre feel like its own independent nation. Russian émigrés huddle over newspapers from their homeland, searching for updates about relatives scattered by revolution. American expatriates practice French phrases that will never sound quite right despite years of effort. German intellectuals debate philosophy in voices still tinged with accents that remind everyone of the ongoing conflict just beyond the city limits. Your usual table by the window provides perfect vantage point for observing the theatre of street life that unfolds throughout the day. Vendors hawk everything from legitimate merchandise to substances that exist in legal grey areas. Artists carry portfolios containing work that will either revolutionize European culture or remain forever unknown depending on forces beyond their control. Prostitutes begin their preparations for evening activities, their morning appearances revealing ordinary humanity beneath whatever personas they adopt after dark. The absinthe you order arrives with ceremony that acknowledges its significance beyond simple beverage service. Monsieur Beaumont has perfected the ritual over years of serving customers who understand the difference between casual drinking and sacramental consumption. The sugar cube dissolves slowly, transforming clear liquid into cloudy promise of expanded awareness that will color your perception throughout the coming hours. The first sip connects you to an invisible network of fellow practitioners scattered throughout the district and beyond. Every person who has ever participated in this ritual becomes temporarily accessible to your consciousness, their experiences blending with your own in ways that create community transcending physical proximity. The sensation resembles tuning into radio frequency that broadcasts directly to some deeper level of awareness than ordinary thought processes can access. Reading material scattered across nearby tables provides glimpse into intellectual currents flowing through European underground culture. Manifestos, declaring death of traditional art forms, sit beside poetry that attempts to capture the fragmented nature of modern consciousness. Political pamphlets advocate for social changes that would terrify conventional citizens, while philosophical treatises explore territories that academic institutions refuse to acknowledge. Your own notebook fills with observations and insights that emerge during these morning sessions. The absinthe doesn't create ideas so much as it removes barriers that prevent recognition of connections already present in the world around you. Patterns become visible that sober consciousness overlooks. Relationships emerge between seemingly unrelated phenomena. Possibilities suggest themselves for artistic projects that could never be conceived through rational planning alone. The conversation at neighboring tables flows like music, composed by multiple composers, working simultaneously without coordination, yet somehow achieving harmony. Languages blend together, creating polyglot symphony that reflects the international nature of artistic rebellion. French phrases mix with German philosophy, English poetry, and Russian revolutionary slogans to produce communication that transcends national boundaries. Marcel arrives, with paint still fresh under his fingernails, evidence of all-night session wrestling with canvas that refused to surrender its secrets easily. His latest work attempts to capture the psychological state of individuals, caught between traditional social roles and emerging possibilities for authentic existence. The paintings reveal internal landscapes that conventional portraiture never explores, showing souls in process of transformation from one form of being to another. His descriptions of technique reveal how chemical enhancement influences artistic creation in ways that critics will never understand. The absinthe doesn't impair judgment, but expands perception, allowing recognition of color relationships and compositional possibilities that sobriety keeps carefully hidden. Each brushstroke becomes meditation on the nature of consciousness itself, with pigment serving as physical manifestation of thoughts too complex for language to convey. Simone joins your table carrying manuscript pages covered with handwriting that appears to have been produced during states of inspired frenzy. Her latest writing project explores female sexuality with honesty that makes published literature seem sanitized and dishonest. The words flow directly from expanded consciousness onto paper without intervention from censoring mechanisms that usually filter authentic expression. She reads selected passages aloud, her voice creating intimate atmosphere that transforms public cafe into private salon. The other patrons listen with attention, usually reserved for religious services, recognizing that they're witnessing creation of literature that future generations will study as examples of revolutionary artistic breakthrough. The content challenges every assumption about proper feminine behavior, while revealing truths about desire that conventional morality works constantly to suppress. Jacques arrives with updates from theatrical circles, where experimental productions push boundaries of taste and legal acceptability. His connections provide access to performances that exist in constant danger of police raids and moral crusades launched by organizations dedicated to preserving traditional cultural values. The plays he describes combine elements of ritual, psychotherapy, and political rebellion in ways that make conventional theater seem like children's entertainment. The conversation turns naturally toward evening plans, with each participant offering suggestions that reflect their particular areas of expertise and connection. Marcel knows galleries where new work hangs on walls still damp from police raids the previous week. Simone has invitations to literary salons, where banned books circulate among readers brave enough to risk prosecution for possessing dangerous ideas. Jacques maintains relationships with theatre companies that perform in basements and abandoned buildings to avoid official scrutiny. Your own contribution to planning involves knowledge of venues that cater specifically to individuals seeking consciousness expansion through chemical and spiritual means. These establishments exist in spaces between legal and illegal, operating through networks of trust and mutual protection that keep them functioning despite constant official pressure. The experiences they offer range from mild enhancement of ordinary perception to complete dissolution of individual identity in favor of cosmic awareness. The decision-making process resembles democracy filtered through artistic sensibility and chemical influence. Each option is evaluated not just for entertainment value, but for potential to contribute to ongoing personal and collective transformation. The evening's activities must build upon previous experiences while opening new territories for exploration. Repetition without growth represents betrayal of the revolutionary principles that guide authentic artistic existence. Your morning ritual concludes with final glass of absinthe that serves as bridge between reflection and action. The enhanced awareness achieved through chemical and social communion now requires expression through creative activity that will contribute to the broader cultural revolution transforming European society. The inspiration gained during café conversations must be transformed into tangible manifestations that advance the cause of authentic human expression. Leaving Monsieur Beaumont's establishment, you carry with you insights and connections that will influence every subsequent interaction throughout the day. The absinthe continues working in your system, maintaining expanded awareness that reveals hidden dimensions of ordinary activities. Shopping for art supplies becomes meditation on the relationship between material and spiritual reality. Conversations with shopkeepers provide opportunities to practice revolutionary principles in mundane contexts. The streets themselves become canvas for artistic expression through the choices you make about route, pace, and interaction with fellow travelers. Every step represents conscious decision about how to embody the principles of authentic existence in physical reality. The conventional world continues operating according to its established patterns, but you move through it as representative of alternative possibilities that most people never recognize as available options. Your apartment serves as headquarters for activities that extend far beyond personal comfort or social entertainment. The space has been transformed into laboratory for consciousness research, gallery for revolutionary art, and meeting place for individuals committed to cultural transformation. Every object contributes to atmosphere that supports expanded awareness while providing tools necessary for creative expression that challenges established aesthetic and moral boundaries. The afternoon unfolds in layers of activity that build systematically toward evening's more intensive experiences. Correspondence with fellow artists throughout Europe maintains communication networks that coordinate revolutionary activities across national boundaries. Reading provides access to ideas and techniques developed by pioneers of consciousness expansion in various cultural contexts. Writing captures insights that emerge from daily practice of expanded awareness, creating records that may influence future generations of cultural rebels. Your personal appearance requires constant attention to ensure that every detail communicates rejection of conventional feminine roles, while maintaining aesthetic appeal that attracts rather than repels potential converts to the cause. The clothing you select serves as uniform for army dedicated to liberating human consciousness from artificial constraints. Cosmetics become war paint for battles fought in salons and cafes, where ideas compete for dominance over European intellectual development. The creative work you produce during afternoon sessions reflects synthesis of influences absorbed through morning conversations and chemical enhancement. Paintings, writings, and other artistic expressions emerge that capture aspects of expanded consciousness in forms accessible to individuals still trapped within conventional awareness. These works serve as bridges between ordinary and extraordinary states of being, providing glimpses of possibilities that dedicated practice might make permanently accessible. Social visits throughout the district strengthen networks that support continued experimentation with consciousness, expansion, and artistic innovation. Each encounter provides opportunities to share insights gained through personal practice, while learning from others whose explorations have revealed different aspects of reality's hidden dimensions. The community that emerges through these interactions creates a support system that makes individual transformation possible within broader context of collective cultural revolution. The transition from afternoon reflection to evening activity requires careful preparation that acknowledges the increased intensity and risk associated with nocturnal adventures. The substances consumed, clothing selected, and companions chosen all contribute to creating conditions that maximize potential for meaningful experience while minimizing dangers that could terminate your experimental existence prematurely. Every decision reflects accumulated wisdom about navigating territories that conventional society considers forbidden or impossible. Evening preparations transform your apartment into a temple dedicated to expanding human consciousness through artistic and chemical means. Candles replace electric lighting to create atmosphere conducive to perception of subtle energies, usually invisible under harsh illumination. Incense burns to purify space of conventional associations while invoking spiritual dimensions that enhance, rather than replace, rational awareness. Music provides sonic foundation for experiences that will unfold throughout the night. The ritual consumption of specially prepared absinthe marks transition from ordinary to extraordinary consciousness, opening doorways to perceptual territories that remain inaccessible without proper chemical keys. Each sip represents commitment to abandoning safety of conventional awareness in favor of adventures that could reveal fundamental truths about existence or result in complete psychological dissolution. The risk makes the potential rewards infinitely more precious than anything obtainable through safe, socially acceptable activities. Your companions arrive bearing their own preparations for the evening's explorations. Marcel brings sketching materials designed to capture visual phenomena that ordinary sight cannot perceive. Simone carries notebooks for recording insights that emerge during states of expanded consciousness. Jacques provides theatrical props that will enhance whatever performances emerge spontaneously during the night's adventures. Together, you form an expedition team prepared for journey into territories that conventional maps never chart. The decision about specific destinations evolves through process that combines rational planning with intuitive recognition of opportunities for maximum transformation. Each venue offers different possibilities for consciousness expansion, artistic revelation, and social connection. The choice requires balancing personal desires for particular types of experience against collective needs for adventures that will benefit all participants while advancing broader goals of cultural revolution. Underground establishments throughout Montmartre cater to various aspects of the consciousness expansion movement that has emerged among European artistic communities. Some specialize in chemical enhancement through substances that reveal hidden dimensions of ordinary reality. Others focus on artistic performances that challenge fundamental assumptions about human nature and social organization. The most advanced venues combine multiple approaches to create total environments where conventional identity dissolves completely in favor of cosmic awareness. Your evening pilgrimage through district's hidden geography reveals parallel universe operating simultaneously with conventional Paris. But according to entirely different principles, street vendors offer items that enhance perception rather than merely satisfying mundane needs. Musicians perform compositions that induce altered states of consciousness rather than simple entertainment. Conversations overheard in doorways and alleyways discuss philosophical and political topics that mainstream society refuses to acknowledge as worthy of serious consideration. The establishment you finally select represents synthesis of everything that makes nocturnal Montmartre unique among world's cultural centers. The venue combines elements of café, gallery, theater, and laboratory in space, designed to support experiments in consciousness that push beyond all previously established boundaries. The clientele includes individuals whose commitment to authentic experience has led them to abandon everything conventional society values in favor of direct encounters with reality's deeper structures. Inside, atmosphere immediately signals that ordinary rules of social interaction have been suspended in favor of protocols that support genuine communication between expanded consciousnesses. The lighting creates conditions where faces appear to reveal psychological truths rather than merely physical features. The acoustics enhance perception of subtle vocal harmonics that carry emotional information beyond literal word meanings. Even the furniture seems designed to encourage postures that facilitate altered states of awareness. Your table near the performance area provides optimal position for observing both scheduled entertainment and spontaneous interactions that emerge when groups of consciousness explorers gather in supportive environment. The absinthe served here represents finest examples of distiller's art, prepared with additional substances that enhance rather than mask the traditional effects. Each glass contains invitation to transcend ordinary limitations in favor of experiences that could permanently alter your understanding of human potential. The first performance begins without announcement, emerging organically from atmosphere of expectation and chemical enhancement that permeates the space. A violinist whose identity remains unknown throughout the evening produces sounds that seem to originate from some cosmic source rather than wooden instrument and horsehair bow. The music creates conditions where individual consciousness begins dissolving into collective awareness that includes everyone present. Your response to the performance reveals how much your perception has been transformed through months of dedicated practice with consciousness expansion techniques. The sounds don't merely entertain, but actively restructure your understanding of time, space, and identity. Colors begin appearing in response to musical phrases, while physical sensations arise from harmonic relationships that bypass normal sensory channels. The boundary between internal and external experience becomes suggestion rather than absolute limitation. Other audience members display similar responses, their faces reflecting various stages of transcendence, from ordinary awareness into territories that rational thought cannot map or control. Some individuals appear to be receiving direct communication from cosmic sources that use music as transmission medium. Others seem engaged in telepathic conversations with performers or fellow audience members. The collective experience creates temporary community based on shared expansion beyond normal human limitations. Between musical pieces, conversations flow that continue themes established through artistic performance. Discussions range from practical techniques for consciousness expansion to theoretical frameworks for understanding the relationship between individual awareness and universal consciousness. The participants speak from direct experience rather than academic knowledge, sharing insights gained through personal experimentation with states of being that conventional psychology refuses to acknowledge as possible. Your own contributions to these conversations reflect months of systematic exploration of consciousness territories that remain unmapped by official science. The chemical enhancement provided by carefully prepared absinthe allows you to articulate insights that normally exist beyond the reach of language. Other participants recognize the authenticity of your experience, responding with information and techniques that will influence your future explorations. The evening's progression follows patterns that have emerged through collective experimentation by European consciousness research communities. Initial chemical and social preparation creates foundation for increasingly intensive experiences that build toward transcendent climax. Each phase requires different types of support and guidance, with experienced practitioners helping newcomers navigate territories that could be dangerous without proper preparation. The second performance introduces elements of theatre that blur boundaries between entertainment and ritual initiation into mysteries that conventional religion has forgotten or deliberately suppressed. The performers appear to channel archetypal forces rather than merely playing scripted roles. Their actions affect audience members in ways that suggest genuine magical practices rather than sophisticated stage illusions. Your participation in these theatrical rituals reveals capabilities you never suspected existed within ordinary human consciousness. Under the influence of enhanced awareness and group support, you begin demonstrating abilities that rational thought would dismiss as impossible. Objects respond to your mental intentions, other participants receive information you project telepathically, and your voice produces sounds that affect the emotional states of everyone within hearing range. The experience reaches crescendo when the boundary between performers and audience dissolves completely, creating collective ritual that involves everyone present in exploration of consciousness territories that individual practice could never access. The absinthe that flows throughout the evening serves as sacramental wine for ceremonies that invoke forces older than recorded history. Each participant contributes unique capabilities to group efforts that achieve results impossible for isolated individuals. As the evening progresses beyond midnight, the atmosphere becomes increasingly charged with energies that conventional science refuses to acknowledge, but which direct experience confirms as undeniably real. The combination of chemical enhancement, artistic stimulation, and group consciousness creates conditions where ordinary physical laws become suggestions rather than absolute limitations. Objects begin behaving according to principles that suggest reality is far more malleable than conventional wisdom admits. Your own awareness expands to encompass not only personal experience, but the perspectives of other participants, historical figures who practice similar techniques, and archetypal forces that exist beyond individual human consciousness. The boundaries that normally define separate identity become permeable membranes rather than solid walls. Information flows freely between different levels of awareness, creating understanding that transcends anything achievable through ordinary intellectual processes. The culminating experience involves direct encounter with the consciousness that some participants identify as the Green Fairy herself, though others recognize the presence as aspect of their own expanded awareness rather than external entity. The communication that occurs transcends language, conveying information about the nature of reality and human potential that will influence your development long after the chemical effects have subsided. The gradual return to ordinary consciousness as dawn approaches reveals the temporary nature of enhanced awareness, while confirming the permanent value of insights gained through systematic exploration of consciousness territories. The experiences that seem so vivid and meaningful during peak states begin fading like dreams. But the fundamental understanding of expanded possibilities remains accessible through future practice and chemical assistance. Your companions display various responses to the transition back toward ordinary awareness. Some appear energized by the night's revelations, already planning future explorations that will build upon insights gained. Others seem overwhelmed by the intensity of expanded experience, requiring time and support to integrate what they've encountered. The diversity of responses confirms that consciousness expansion affects each individual according to their unique psychological and spiritual preparation. The journey back through Montmartre's empty streets provides time for reflection on the significance of experiences that exist outside normal categories of human activity. The conventional world appears unchanged by your nocturnal adventures, but your perception of its hidden dimensions has been permanently altered. Every building, every street, every ordinary object now suggests possibilities for expanded awareness that most people never recognize as available options. Your apartment welcomes you back with familiar objects that have been transformed through your transformation. The paintings on your walls now reveal meanings that were invisible before the night's initiation into deeper mysteries. Books beckon with promises of wisdom that previous readings had missed completely. Even mundane items like mirrors and candlesticks suggest tools for further consciousness research rather than mere household necessities. Preparing for sleep after such intensive experiences requires special attention to creating conditions that will support integration of insights rather than simple forgetfulness. The dreams that follow consciousness. Expansion sessions often continue the exploration in realms where physical limitations don't apply. Proper preparation ensures that sleep becomes extension of the evening's research rather than retreat from expanded awareness back into ordinary unconsciousness. Your reflection in the bedroom mirror reveals someone who has crossed another threshold in the ongoing transformation from conventional social role toward authentic individual existence. The physical appearance remains essentially unchanged, but something fundamental has shifted in your relationship with identity itself. The boundaries that once seemed absolute have revealed themselves as temporary constructions that can be modified through sufficient understanding and practice. The Absinthe's effects continue working subtly in your system, even as primary enhancement fades, maintaining access to perceptual territories that will remain partially available throughout the following day. This residual expansion ensures that tomorrow's activities will be informed by tonight's revelations, creating continuity between intensive exploration sessions and ordinary daily existence. The integration of expanded awareness into routine activities represents a crucial aspect of consciousness development that distinguishes genuine transformation from temporary escape. Sleep comes gradually, accompanied by visions that continue the evening's themes in symbolic rather than literal form. The green fairy appears in dreams not as external entity, but as aspect of your own consciousness that has been awakened through systematic practice with expansion techniques. Her guidance provides maps for future explorations, while warning about dangers that await unprepared travelers in territories where ordinary rules no longer apply. The morning that follows brings return to mundane responsibilities and social obligations, but the underlying foundation of your existence has been permanently altered by another night of successful consciousness exploration. The person who wakes up retains access to insights and capabilities that were developed during enhanced states, creating gradual accumulation of expanded awareness that will eventually transform every aspect of daily existence. Your morning absinthe ritual takes on deeper significance after each intensive exploration session, serving not merely as chemical enhancement, but as communion with forces that exist beyond ordinary perception, yet remain perpetually accessible to those committed to authentic existence. Each glass represents another step in systematic development of human potential that conventional society actively discourages through education, religion, and social pressure. The daily routine of cafe visits, social interactions, and artistic activities now serves as laboratory for testing insights gained during nocturnal adventures. The expanded awareness achieved through chemical and spiritual means, must be integrated into ordinary consciousness through practical application in mundane contexts. This integration process represents the real work of consciousness development, transforming temporary experiences into permanent capabilities. Your role within Montmartre's artistic community continues evolving as your consciousness expansion practice deepens and matures. Other practitioners recognize your growing expertise, seeking guidance for their own explorations while sharing techniques and insights that accelerate collective development. The informal network of consciousness researchers that has emerged among European artistic communities creates a support system that makes individual transformation possible within broader context of cultural revolution. The correspondence you maintain with fellow explorers throughout Europe reveals similar experiments occurring in other cultural centers, where individuals have begun systematic investigation of human consciousness potential. Berlin, Vienna, London, and Rome, all host communities dedicated to expanding awareness through chemical, artistic, and spiritual means. The international scope of this movement suggests a fundamental shift in European consciousness that transcends national boundaries and conventional political categories. Your personal contribution to this broader cultural transformation involves not only individual development, but active participation in creating conditions that support similar growth, among others, ready for authentic existence. The salon gatherings you organize, the artistic collaborations you facilitate, and the consciousness expansion techniques you share all contribute to collective effort that could reshape European civilization according to principles of expanded awareness rather than conventional limitation. The war that continues raging beyond Paris provides constant reminder of what happens when human consciousness remains trapped within tribal and nationalistic boundaries. The artificial divisions that fuel international conflict reflect the same limited awareness that keeps individuals imprisoned within conventional social roles and personal identity. The consciousness expansion movement represents potential solution to fundamental problems that conventional politics and religion have proven incapable of addressing. Your daily existence as Céleste Dubois now serves larger purposes than personal satisfaction or social rebellion. Through systematic exploration of consciousness territories, you participate in research that could eventually transform human civilization itself. The insights gained through absinthe-enhanced awareness, the artistic expressions that emerge from expanded consciousness, and the community connections formed with fellow explorers all contribute to collective effort, whose ultimate significance may not become apparent for generations. The green fairy that guides your explorations represents not merely chemical effect or personal hallucination, but actual contact with dimensions of reality that conventional awareness keeps carefully hidden. Each encounter provides additional information about the nature of existence and human potential that accumulates into comprehensive understanding of possibilities that ordinary education never acknowledges as real. This growing wisdom influences every decision about how to spend your remaining time in physical incarnation. Your transformation from dutiful daughter to consciousness explorer represents just the beginning of a journey that will continue throughout whatever forms of existence await beyond this particular lifetime. The capabilities developed through systematic expansion practice, the understanding gained about reality's deeper structures, and the connections formed with other advanced practitioners create foundation for continued development that transcends biological death and social dissolution. The morning sun streaming through your apartment windows illuminates space that has been transformed into a temple dedicated to expanding human consciousness beyond artificial limitations imposed by conventional society. Every object contributes to atmosphere that supports ongoing research into territories of awareness that remain unmapped by official science, but which direct experience confirms as undeniably real and infinitely rewarding for those brave enough to explore them systematically. Your daily routine has become a carefully orchestrated dance between the mundane requirements of physical existence and the profound calling toward expanded consciousness that now defines your true purpose. Each morning begins with the ritual that connects you to invisible networks of fellow seekers scattered across Europe's cultural underground. The absinthe transforms from simple beverage into sacramental key that unlocks perceptual doors most people never realize exist within ordinary human awareness. The cafe conversations that structure your afternoons serve multiple functions beyond social entertainment or intellectual stimulation. These gatherings create temporary laboratories where consciousness expansion techniques can be shared, refined, and tested among individuals committed to transcending conventional limitations. Marcel's artistic breakthroughs, Simone's literary innovations, and Jacques' theatrical experiments all emerge from the collective wisdom that develops when expanded awareness meets creative expression in supportive community settings. Your apartment has evolved into something resembling a research station, dedicated to mapping territories of consciousness that official science refuses to acknowledge. The books lining your walls contain knowledge gathered by generations of explorers who understood that human potential extends far beyond what conventional education reveals. The artworks decorating your space serve as visual reminders of possibilities that exist beyond ordinary perception. Even mundane objects like mirrors and candlesticks suggest tools for further investigation into reality's hidden dimensions. The clothing you select each morning functions as more than mere fashion statement or social rebellion. Every piece contributes to creating persona capable of navigating experiences that would overwhelm someone still attached to conventional identity. The shortened skirts declare independence from Victorian constraints. The bold cosmetics serve as war paint for battles fought in realms where appearance affects consciousness as much as consciousness shapes appearance. The carefully chosen accessories provide talismans that maintain connection to expanded awareness during necessary interactions with ordinary society. Your financial independence through family wealth creates opportunities for consciousness exploration that would be impossible for individuals trapped in conventional employment. The irony of using bourgeois resources to fund anti-bourgeois activities adds delicious complexity to your rebellion against inherited expectations. Every franc spent on quality absinthe or underground performances represents investment in developing capabilities that no amount of traditional education could provide. The correspondence you maintain with consciousness researchers throughout Europe reveals the international scope of what might be humanity's next evolutionary leap. Letters arrive from Berlin, describing experiments with synthetic compounds that enhance perception beyond anything natural substances can achieve. Reports from Vienna detail theatrical productions that blur boundaries between performance and genuine magical ritual. Updates from London reveal literary circles where writers explore narrative techniques that mirror the fragmented nature of expanded consciousness. Your social calendar reflects careful balance between activities that support continued growth and obligations that maintain necessary connections to conventional world morning cafe sessions with fellow explorers, provide intellectual stimulation and technique sharing. Afternoon visits to galleries and bookshops offer exposure to artistic innovations emerging from expanded consciousness. Evening adventures in underground venues create opportunities for intensive exploration that pushes beyond all previously established boundaries. The transformation occurring within your personal identity extends far beyond simple rejection of family expectations or social conventions. Each consciousness expansion session reveals additional layers of selfhood that exist beneath constructed personas and inherited beliefs. The dutiful daughter, the rebellious flapper, even the sophisticated bohemian, all represent temporary costumes worn by something far more fundamental that defies conventional categorization. Your relationship with absinthe has evolved from simple chemical enhancement to complex spiritual practice that requires careful attention to preparation, consumption, and integration. The quality of substances consumed affects not only immediate experiences, but long-term development of consciousness capabilities. Inferior preparations provide crude intoxication that obscures rather than reveals deeper realities. Premium distillations serve as precise instruments for accessing specific territories of expanded awareness with minimal risk of psychological damage. The artistic work you create during enhanced states captures aspects of expanded consciousness in forms that remain accessible after chemical effects subside. These paintings, writings, and other expressions serve as bridges between ordinary and extraordinary awareness, providing glimpses of possibilities that dedicated practice might make permanently available. The creative process itself becomes a form of consciousness research that generates both aesthetic objects and psychological insights. Your daily navigation through Montmartre's streets requires constant awareness of multiple realities operating simultaneously within the same physical space. The conventional world continues its established patterns, while underground networks facilitate activities that would scandalize respectable society. Your ability to move between these different levels of reality represents practical skill that has been developed through months of systematic consciousness expansion practice. The friendships you maintain within artistic communities provide more than social connection or intellectual stimulation. These relationships create support networks that make individual transformation possible within broader context of collective cultural revolution. Each person contributes unique perspectives and capabilities to group efforts that achieve results impossible for isolated practitioners. The bonds formed through shared consciousness exploration transcend ordinary social categories based on background, nationality, or conventional interests. Your morning preparations now include meditation techniques that maintain access to expanded awareness throughout daily activities. These practices ensure that insights gained during intensive sessions remain available for practical application in mundane contexts. The integration of enhanced consciousness into routine existence represents a crucial aspect of development that distinguishes genuine transformation from temporary escape through chemical means. The books you study provide maps for territories that direct experience must ultimately navigate. Theoretical knowledge serves as preparation for practical exploration, rather than substitute for actual consciousness expansion. The combination of intellectual understanding and experiential verification creates comprehensive development that transforms both thinking processes and perceptual capabilities. Each text reveals additional possibilities while warning about dangers that await unprepared travelers in realms where ordinary rules no longer apply. Your evening rituals require increasingly sophisticated preparation as your consciousness expansion practice deepens and matures. The substances consumed, environments selected, and companions chosen all contribute to creating optimal conditions for meaningful exploration, while minimizing risks that could terminate experimental existence prematurely. Every decision reflects accumulated wisdom about navigating territories that conventional psychology refuses to acknowledge as accessible to human awareness. The underground venues that cater to consciousness expansion communities provide essential services that legitimate establishments cannot offer. These spaces create atmospheres where enhanced awareness feels natural rather than aberrant, where conversations can explore topics that mainstream society considers forbidden or impossible. The performers who work these venues understand their role as guides rather than mere entertainers, facilitating experiences that could permanently alter audience members' understanding of human potential. Your participation in collective consciousness expansion rituals reveals capabilities that individual practice alone could never develop. Group sessions create temporary communities where boundaries between separate identities become permeable, allowing information and energy to flow freely between participants. These shared experiences demonstrate that consciousness represents collective rather than purely individual phenomenon, suggesting possibilities for human cooperation that transcend anything conventional social organization has achieved. The dreams that follow intensive consciousness expansion sessions often continue exploration in realms where physical limitations don't constrain experience. Proper preparation ensures that sleep becomes extension of evening's research rather than retreat from expanded awareness back into ordinary unconsciousness. The integration of dream insights with waking experiences creates comprehensive development that affects every aspect of daily existence. Your reflection in mirrors throughout the day reveals ongoing transformation that extends beyond surface appearances to fundamental changes in relationship with identity itself. The person staring back appears simultaneously familiar and strange, recognizable yet mysteriously altered by experiences that exist outside normal categories of human activity. These visual confirmations of internal changes provide feedback about progress and consciousness development that cannot be measured through conventional means. The wartime context that surrounds all activities creates urgency that accelerates both individual development and collective cultural transformation. The proximity of death makes every moment of authentic experience precious beyond calculation. Traditional social structures crumble under pressure of historical forces, creating opportunities for experiments in consciousness that previous generations could never have attempted within stable conventional societies. Your daily consumption of absinthe follows protocols that have been refined through careful attention to effects on consciousness, expansion capabilities. The timing, quantity, and quality of substances consumed all influence access to specific territories of enhanced awareness. Morning doses provide foundation for day's activities, while evening preparations open doorways to intensive exploration that continues throughout nocturnal adventures. Each glass represents conscious choice to prioritize authentic experience over social acceptance. The artistic community that surrounds your daily existence functions as informal university dedicated to expanding human consciousness through creative expression. Painters, writers, musicians, and theatrical performers all contribute techniques and insights that advance collective understanding of possibilities that conventional education systematically conceals or denies. The cross-pollination between different artistic disciplines creates innovations that individual practitioners working in isolation could never achieve. Your correspondence with family members requires careful management to avoid revealing the full extent of transformation that consciousness expansion practice has produced. The conventional language they understand cannot accommodate descriptions of enhanced awareness or mystical experience without triggering concerns about sanity or moral condition. Letters home represent surface communications that maintain necessary connections while protecting deeper activities from interference or suppression. The financial resources available through family wealth create opportunities for supporting other consciousness researchers whose explorations might otherwise be limited by economic constraints. Your contributions to collective efforts extend beyond personal participation to include patronage of artists, writers, and performers whose work advances understanding of expanded awareness. This support creates networks of mutual assistance that strengthen entire communities dedicated to authentic existence. Your daily schedule balances intensive consciousness, exploration, with necessary attention to physical health and social obligations. The chemicals consumed for enhancement purposes require careful monitoring to prevent accumulation of toxic effects that could impair rather than expand awareness. Social interactions with conventional acquaintances must be managed to avoid triggering investigations or interventions that could disrupt ongoing research activities. The transformation that continues occurring within your personal identity affects every aspect of daily existence, from clothing selection to conversation topics to choice of evening entertainment. Each decision reflects commitment to authentic experience rather than social approval, growth rather than security, truth rather than comfort. The accumulated effects of thousands of small choices create fundamental shift in relationship with existence itself that extends far beyond original rebellion against family expectations. Your evening preparations increasingly resemble rituals performed by practitioners of ancient mystery traditions that understood consciousness expansion as an essential aspect of human development. The attention paid to environmental factors, chemical preparations, and psychological readiness demonstrates sophisticated understanding of conditions necessary for safe and productive exploration of territories that remain unmapped by contemporary science. The underground networks that facilitate consciousness expansion activities operate according to principles of trust and mutual protection that create genuine communities among individuals who have abandoned conventional social structures. These relationships provide security and support that make continued experimentation possible, despite constant pressure from authorities who view enhanced awareness as threat to established order. Your daily life as Céleste Dubois now serves purposes that extend far beyond personal satisfaction or artistic achievement. Through systematic exploration of consciousness territories, you participate in research that could eventually transform human civilization according to principles of expanded awareness rather than conventional limitation. The insights gained through absinthe-enhanced perception, the artistic expressions that emerge from transcendent experiences, and the community connections formed with fellow explorers all contribute to collective effort, whose ultimate significance may not become apparent for generations. The morning sun that streams through your apartment windows each day illuminates space that has been consecrated through months of consciousness, expansion practice. Every object contributes to atmosphere that supports ongoing research into dimensions of awareness that official science refuses to acknowledge, but which direct experience confirms as undeniably real. The light itself seems different now, carrying information about reality's deeper structures that ordinary perception filters out to maintain illusion of solid, separate existence. Your daily pilgrimage through Montmartre's streets connects you to invisible networks of energy and information that flow through the district's unique geography. The cobblestones beneath your feet seem to pulse with accumulated memories of everyone who has ever walked these paths in search of authentic experience. The buildings appear to contain stories that extend beyond their official histories, to include activities that conventional records deliberately omit or misrepresent. The cafe conversations that punctuate each afternoon create temporary universities where advanced consciousness research can be conducted through dialogue between individuals who have transcended ordinary limitations through dedicated practice. These discussions generate insights that individual contemplation could never produce, while creating bonds between participants that extend far beyond casual social acquaintance. The collective wisdom that emerges from these gatherings influences decisions about technique, substances, venues, and safety procedures that affect entire communities of practitioners. Your artistic activities now serve functions that extend beyond creative expression to include documentation of territories that exist beyond ordinary perception. The paintings, writings, and other works produced during enhanced states provide maps for future explorers, while creating aesthetic objects that can trigger recognition of expanded possibilities in individuals who have never consciously experienced enhanced awareness. This dual function makes artistic creation an essential aspect of consciousness research rather than mere personal hobby or social activity. The chemicals that facilitate consciousness expansion require increasingly sophisticated understanding as your practice deepens and matures. Different substances provide access to distinct territories of enhanced awareness, each with characteristic features and particular benefits for specific types of exploration. The absinthe that remains your primary sacrament opens doorways to realms where individual identity becomes fluid, while maintaining enough cognitive coherence to remember and integrate experiences after effects subside. Your daily existence demonstrates that authentic life requires constant willingness to transcend previous limitations through systematic exploration of possibilities that conventional wisdom insists are impossible or dangerous. Each morning brings opportunities to expand understanding of consciousness, reality, and human potential through careful application of techniques that have been developed through collective experimentation by European artistic communities. The transformation continues accelerating as accumulated experiences create foundation for increasingly ambitious explorations of territories that remain unmapped by official science, but which direct encounter reveals as infinitely rewarding for those brave enough to investigate them systematically. The evening approaches with promises that daylight could never fulfill, beckoning toward adventures that will continue your ongoing transformation from conventional social role toward authentic individual existence. The Green Fairy awaits in underground venues where enhanced consciousness feels natural rather than aberrant, where conversations explore topics that mainstream society refuses to acknowledge, where performances blur boundaries between entertainment and genuine magical practice. Tonight will bring new opportunities to transcend ordinary limitations through chemical enhancement, artistic stimulation, and community support that creates optimal conditions for consciousness expansion. Your reflection in the window glass shows someone who has successfully navigated the dangerous passage from dutiful daughter to consciousness explorer while maintaining enough connection to conventional reality to avoid complete social isolation or psychological breakdown. The balance requires constant attention and adjustment, but the rewards justify every risk taken in pursuit of experiences that reveal human potential, extends far beyond anything ordinary education acknowledges as possible. The absinthe that flows through underground Montmartre creates rivers of expanded awareness that connect individual practitioners to collective consciousness research being conducted throughout Europe's artistic communities. Each glass consumed represents another step in systematic development of capabilities that could eventually transform human civilization according to principles of authentic existence rather than conventional limitation. The Green Fairy guides this transformation through territories that remain invisible to ordinary perception, but which dedicated practice reveals as more real and significant than anything the conventional world has to offer. The adventure continues with each passing day as your consciousness expands beyond previous boundaries, while maintaining enough coherence to navigate practical requirements of physical existence. The woman who began this journey as sheltered bourgeois daughter has become pioneer in territories of awareness that few humans have ever explored systematically. The transformation represents just beginning of development that will continue throughout whatever forms of existence await beyond this particular incarnation. Guided always by wisdom, gained through careful attention to possibilities that reveal themselves when ordinary limitations are transcended through sufficient courage and proper technique. Your daily routine now serves larger purposes than personal satisfaction or artistic achievement, contributing to collective effort that could reshape European consciousness according to principles of expanded awareness rather than conventional restriction. Through systematic exploration of territories that official science refuses to acknowledge, through artistic expression that captures aspects of transcendent experience in forms accessible to others, through community building that supports similar development among fellow practitioners, you participate in cultural revolution whose ultimate significance extends far beyond immediate historical context. The Green Fairy that presides over these explorations represents contact with dimensions of reality that exist beyond ordinary perception, yet remain perpetually accessible to those committed to authentic existence. Each encounter provides additional information about the nature of consciousness and human potential that accumulates into comprehensive understanding of possibilities that conventional wisdom systematically conceals or denies. This growing knowledge influences every decision about how to spend remaining time in physical incarnation, ensuring that each moment contributes to development that will continue beyond biological death and social dissolution. The morning light that illuminates your transformed existence suggests infinite possibilities, waiting to be discovered through continued practice with consciousness expansion techniques. The conventional world appears simultaneously unchanged and completely different, as if ordinary objects and familiar locations have revealed hidden dimensions that were always present, but remained invisible until proper preparation made perception possible. Everything suggests that reality contains far more than surface appearances indicate, promising endless adventures for those brave enough to investigate systematically what lies beneath conventional assumptions about existence itself. Your evening toilette becomes an elaborate ritual of transformation as you prepare for another night that will push consciousness beyond its familiar boundaries. The silk chemise slides against skin that tingles with residual absinthe effects, each fiber seeming to carry electrical current that heightens awareness of your physical form. You select undergarments not merely for comfort, but for their ability to enhance the freedom of movement that spontaneous dancing might require in venues where bodies express what words cannot capture. The mirror reflects someone who has learned to use appearance as instrument for accessing hidden realms of experience. Tonight's rouge is applied with precision that would impress theatrical makeup artists, creating mask that simultaneously conceals and reveals aspects of identity that conventional society must never glimpse. The kohl around your eyes serves practical purposes beyond aesthetic enhancement, marking you as a member of community that understands darkness, contains illumination unavailable in harsh daylight. Your selection of jewelry requires careful consideration of each piece's symbolic significance and practical utility. The silver pendant depicting phases of the moon announces allegiance to forces that operate according to cycles older than human civilization. The rings that adorn your fingers contain engravings that serve as talismans for protection during journeys into territories where ordinary rules of cause and effect become unreliable suggestions rather than absolute laws. The dress you choose flows like liquid mercury, its deep emerald color echoing the sacred substance that facilitates your consciousness explorations. The fabric responds to movement with qualities that seem almost alive, creating visual effects that enhance whatever performances might emerge spontaneously during evening gatherings. The cut emphasizes aspects of feminine form that challenge Victorian assumptions about proper bodily display, while maintaining enough elegance to navigate upscale venues without triggering immediate scandal. Footwear selection balances practical requirements for navigating cobblestone streets with aesthetic considerations that complete your transformation into someone capable of existing simultaneously in multiple realities. The leather boots lace high enough to provide ankle support during extended walking, while their pointed toes and modest heels create silhouette that suggests both strength and sensuality. The soles have been treated with substances that enhance connection to earth energies that flow through Montmartre's unique geography. Your evening bag contains carefully curated selection of items that serve both mundane and mystical functions. The silver compact mirror reflects not only physical appearance, but emotional states that become visible during enhanced consciousness. The small vial of laudanum provides insurance against venues that might not stock quality enhancement substances. The silk scarf can serve decorative, practical, or ceremonial purposes, depending on circumstances that unfold throughout nocturnal adventures. Descending the narrow staircase that connects your sanctuary to street level requires careful attention to balance, as residual chemical effects make ordinary movement feel like floating through space that has become fluid rather than solid. Each step carries you further from safety of private contemplation toward unpredictable encounters with fellow travelers who have chosen similar paths through territories that conventional maps never chart. The evening air carries scents that announce the beginning of Montmartre's real activities. As legitimate businesses close their doors and establishments catering to nocturnal appetites begin their authentic operations, cooking odors from immigrant communities blend with exotic incense from shops that serve practitioners of traditions European Christianity refuses to acknowledge. The metallic tang of industrial progress mingles with organic fragrances from gardens, where plants cultivated for consciousness enhancement grow alongside conventional flowers. Your route through winding streets follows pathways that have been worn smooth by generations of seekers, pursuing experiences that respectable society considers impossible or forbidden. The cobblestones seem to pulse with accumulated energy from everyone who has ever walked these paths in search of authentic existence beyond conventional limitations. Building walls appear to contain stories that extend far beyond their official histories, to include activities that government records deliberately omit or misrepresent. Street vendors offer items that range from apparently innocent souvenirs to substances whose effects remain mysterious until personally tested under proper guidance. The merchants recognize regular customers through subtle signs that indicate membership in communities dedicated to consciousness expansion through chemical and spiritual means. These commercial relationships operate according to principles of trust and discretion that create informal networks supporting activities that exist in legal grey areas. The intersection where you meet your companions for evening adventures serves as informal headquarters for planning expeditions into territories that require collective courage to navigate safely. Marcel arrives carrying portfolio that contains sketches produced during previous enhancement sessions, visual documentation of perceptual phenomena that ordinary sight cannot detect. His clothing bears fresh paint stains that serve as evidence of creative work produced under influence of substances that expand artistic capabilities beyond conventional limitations. Simone appears with manuscript pages covered in handwriting that flows like automatic dictation from sources beyond conscious control. Her latest writing explores themes of feminine sexuality and spiritual transcendence that mainstream publishers would refuse to consider for reasons of taste, morality, and legal liability. The words emerge from consciousness territories that become accessible only through systematic practice, with enhancement techniques that dissolve artificial barriers between different levels of awareness. Jacques brings theatrical props that will enhance whatever spontaneous performances emerge during evening gatherings, where entertainment blends seamlessly with ritual practices that invoke forces older than recorded history. His understanding of dramatic technique extends beyond conventional stagecraft to include knowledge of how conscious attention and chemical enhancement can transform ordinary activities into ceremonies that produce genuine magical effects rather than mere illusion. The decision about evening destination emerges through democratic process, filtered by artistic sensibility and chemical influence that makes collective wisdom more accessible than individual planning could achieve. Each venue offers different opportunities for consciousness exploration, artistic revelation, and community bonding that advances both personal development and broader cultural transformation. The choice requires balancing desire for intensive experience against practical considerations of safety and integration. Your group begins walking towards selected destination through streets that take on different characteristics, as conventional activities yield to enterprises that cater to nocturnal populations seeking experiences unavailable during daylight hours. The transformation occurs gradually, almost imperceptibly, as legitimate businesses close and establishments serving alternative communities begin their real operations. The shift creates opportunities for encounters that would be impossible within respectable social contexts. Musicians positioned at strategic corners provide soundtrack for procession through districts' hidden geography. Their melodies blending traditional French folk songs with exotic rhythms, imported from colonial territories, and experimental compositions that challenge fundamental assumptions about harmony and structure. The sounds create atmospheric conditions that enhance chemical effects while preparing consciousness for experiences that will unfold throughout evening adventures. Other groups of pilgrims pass heading toward their chosen destinations, each collective united by shared commitment to transcending ordinary limitations through whatever means their particular interests and capabilities suggest. As most promising, some appear to be tourists, seeking sanitized glimpses of bohemian culture without genuine commitment to transformation. Others display signs of serious dedication to consciousness expansion practices that require abandoning conventional security in favor of authentic experience. The conversations that flow between companions as you walk explore topics that would scandalize dinner party guests in respectable districts, while revealing sophisticated understanding of philosophical and practical issues related to consciousness expansion. Marcel describes techniques for capturing enhanced perceptions in visual form that remains accessible after chemical effects subside. His methods combine traditional artistic training with innovations that emerge only during altered states of awareness. Simone shares insights about writing processes that channel information from consciousness territories normally inaccessible to rational thought. Her approach involves systematic dissolution of ego boundaries that usually filter authentic expression through socially acceptable forms. The resulting literature captures psychological truths that conventional fiction carefully avoids, while providing maps for others seeking similar transcendent experiences. Jacques discusses theatrical innovations that transform audiences from passive observers into active participants in rituals that blur boundaries between entertainment and genuine spiritual practice. His productions create temporary communities where enhanced consciousness feels natural rather than aberrant, where collective exploration of human potential produces results that individual effort could never achieve. Your own contributions to these discussions reflect months of systematic experimentation with substances, techniques, and environments that support consciousness expansion, while maintaining enough coherence to remember and integrate experiences after enhancement effects subside. The accumulated wisdom influences every aspect of daily existence, from morning preparation rituals to selection of evening destinations to choice of companions for particular types of exploration. The underground establishment that serves as tonight's destination occupies basement space beneath building whose legitimate upper floors house conventional businesses that provide perfect cover for activities that authorities would suppress if conducted in obvious locations. The entrance requires knowledge of passwords and recognition signals that separate genuine practitioners from curious tourists or potential police informants who might compromise community security. Descending narrow stairs toward venue's hidden location, you feel anticipation building like electrical charge accumulating before thunderstorm. The air grows thick with cigarette smoke and exotic incense that announces proximity to experiences that will challenge every assumption about consciousness, reality, and human potential. Voices speaking multiple languages drift upward from gathering spaces where European artistic underground meets to share techniques and insights that advance collective understanding of expanded awareness. The admission process involves more than simple payment of entrance fees, requiring demonstration of commitment to evening possibilities through participation in brief rituals that prepare consciousness for experiences that could prove overwhelming to unprepared individuals. These ceremonies serve practical functions of ensuring audience readiness while creating temporary community bonds that enhance collective exploration of territories that individual practice could never access. Inside the venue, atmosphere immediately signals that conventional social protocols have been suspended in favor of interactions that support genuine communication between expanded consciousnesses. The lighting creates conditions where faces appear to reveal psychological depths rather than surface appearances. The acoustics enhance perception of vocal harmonics that carry emotional information beyond literal word meanings. Even furniture seems designed to encourage postures that facilitate altered states of awareness. Your table provides optimal positioning for observing both scheduled performances and spontaneous interactions that emerge when communities of consciousness explorers gather in supportive environments. The absinthe served here represents finest examples of distiller's art, prepared with additional botanicals that enhance rather than mask traditional effects. Each glass contains invitation to transcend ordinary limitations in favor of experiences that could permanently alter understanding of human capabilities. The first performer takes stage, carrying violin that appears to be ordinary wooden instrument, but produces sounds that seem to originate from cosmic sources rather than vibrating strings and resonating chamber. The music creates conditions where individual consciousness begins dissolving into collective awareness that includes everyone present, while maintaining enough cognitive coherence to participate consciously in whatever revelations unfold throughout evening. Your response to opening performance reveals how profoundly consciousness expansion practice has transformed perceptual capabilities over months of dedicated experimentation. The sounds don't merely entertain, but actively restructure understanding of time, space, and identity through mechanisms that bypass ordinary sensory channels. Colors begin appearing in response to musical phrases, while physical sensations arise from harmonic relationships that create synesthetic experiences impossible under normal conditions. Other audience members display similar responses, as enhanced awareness allows recognition of artistic dimensions that conventional perception keeps carefully hidden. Some individuals appear to be receiving direct telepathic communication from a performer who uses music as transmission medium for information that exists beyond linguistic categories. Others engage in silent conversations with fellow audience members through channels that operate according to principles unknown to ordinary psychology. The collective experience creates temporary community based on shared expansion beyond normal human limitations, rather than conventional social categories determined by background, wealth, or cultural affiliation. The bonds that form during these sessions transcend ordinary friendship to approach spiritual kinship between souls who have chosen similar paths through territories that few humans ever explore systematically. These connections influence future activities and provide support networks that make continued experimentation possible despite constant pressure from authorities who view enhanced consciousness as threat to established order. Between musical pieces, conversations flow that continue themes established through artistic performance, while exploring practical applications of insights gained through systematic consciousness expansion. Participants share techniques for maintaining access to enhanced awareness during daily activities, methods for integrating transcendent experiences into mundane existence, and strategies for protecting expansion practices from interference by individuals who lack understanding or sympathy for authentic spiritual development. Your contributions to these discussions demonstrate expertise that has been developed through months of careful experimentation with substances, environments, and companions that create optimal conditions for meaningful exploration while minimizing risks that could terminate experimental existence prematurely. Other practitioners recognize authenticity of your experience and respond with information that will influence future adventures in territories that remain unmapped by conventional science. The evening's second performance introduces elements of theater that blur boundaries between entertainment and ritual initiation into mysteries that organized religion has forgotten or deliberately abandoned. The performers appear to channel archetypal forces rather than merely playing scripted roles, their actions affecting audience consciousness in ways that suggest genuine magical practices rather than sophisticated stage illusions designed to create temporary suspension of disbelief. Your participation in theatrical rituals reveals capabilities that months of consciousness expansion have awakened within awareness that conventional education systematically suppresses or denies objects begin responding to mental intentions without physical contact. Information flows between participants through channels that operate independently of ordinary sensory mechanisms. Your voice produces sounds that affect emotional states of everyone within hearing range through harmonics that carry psychological rather than merely acoustic effects. The boundary between performers and audience dissolves completely as evening progresses, creating collective ceremony that involves everyone present in exploration of consciousness territories that individual practice could never access safely or completely. The venue transforms from entertainment space into temporary temple, where genuine spiritual work proceeds according to principles that predate organized religion, while pointing toward possibilities that conventional worship never acknowledges as achievable through human effort. Enhanced awareness produced by carefully prepared absinthe allows recognition of energies and presences that exist beyond ordinary perception, yet remain perpetually available to consciousness that has been properly prepared through systematic practice with expansion techniques The green fairy herself seems to materialize not as external entity, but as aspect of collective unconscious that becomes accessible when artificial barriers between individual minds dissolve through chemical and spiritual means. Communication with these presences occurs through mechanisms that transcend language while conveying information about reality's deeper structures that will influence development long after chemical effects have subsided. The insights gained through direct contact with consciousness territories normally hidden from human awareness create understanding of existence that affects every subsequent choice about how to spend time and energy in physical incarnation. The experience reaches climax when temporal boundaries dissolve and past, present, and future become simultaneous rather than sequential phenomena. Historical figures who practice similar consciousness expansion techniques seem to participate directly in current activities, their accumulated wisdom becoming immediately accessible to contemporary practitioners who have achieved sufficient development to maintain coherent awareness during complete ego dissolution. Your individual identity becomes fluid rather than fixed during peak phases of enhancement, allowing exploration of alternative possibilities for selfhood that exist within consciousness but remain hidden under normal conditions. The person you have always believed yourself to be reveals itself as temporary construction that can be modified or abandoned entirely in favor of more authentic expressions of whatever essential being exists beneath social conditioning and inherited limitations. Collective rituals that emerge spontaneously during evening's culminating phases involve everyone present in activities that demonstrate human potential, extends far beyond anything conventional education acknowledges as possible. Telepathic communication becomes natural rather than exceptional, with information flowing freely between participants without verbal exchange. Physical objects respond to group intentions through mechanisms that suggest matter itself possesses consciousness that can be influenced through proper understanding and technique. The venue's atmosphere becomes increasingly charged with energies that conventional science refuses to acknowledge, but which direct experience confirms as undeniably real and accessible through systematic practice with expansion techniques. Reality itself appears more malleable than ordinary perception suggests, responding to collective intentions in ways that blur boundaries between imagination and manifestation, between internal experience and external phenomena. As midnight approaches and enhancement reaches its peak intensity, the gathering transforms into mystery school, where ancient wisdom traditions merge with contemporary innovations to create teaching methods that conventional education could never duplicate or replace. Each participant becomes simultaneously student and instructor, sharing insights while receiving guidance from others whose explorations have revealed different aspects of consciousness territories that remain largely unmapped by official research. Your own role in these collective teaching sessions reflects capabilities that have been developed through months of dedicated practice with substances and techniques that expand awareness beyond ordinary limitations. The knowledge you share emerges not from books or lectures, but from direct experience of territories that most humans never consciously visit, despite their perpetual availability to properly prepared consciousness. The information exchanged during peak enhancement phases will influence participants long after chemical effects have subsided, creating permanent changes in understanding that affect every aspect of subsequent existence. These insights cannot be forgotten or ignored once they have been directly experienced, making consciousness expansion practices inherently transformative rather than merely entertaining or temporarily escapist. Gradual return toward ordinary awareness as dawn approaches reveals temporary nature of chemical enhancement while confirming permanent value of insights gained through systematic exploration of consciousness possibilities. The experiences that seemed vivid and meaningful during peak states begin fading like morning mist, but fundamental understanding of expanded human potential remains accessible through future practice and proper preparation. Your companions display various responses to transition back toward conventional consciousness, some energized by night's revelations and already planning future explorations, while others appear overwhelmed by intensity of experiences that challenged every assumption about reality and human nature. The diversity of reactions confirms that consciousness expansion affects each individual according to their unique psychological preparation and spiritual development. The journey back through Montmartre's empty streets provides time for reflection on significance of experiences that exist outside normal categories of human activity, while requiring integration into daily existence that continues operating according to conventional schedules and social expectations. The ordinary world appears unchanged by nocturnal adventures, but perception of its hidden dimensions has been permanently altered through contact with territories that most people never recognize as available options. Your apartment welcomes return with familiar objects that have been transformed through your transformation, their ordinary appearances now suggesting possibilities for further consciousness research that extend far beyond conventional utility. The paintings reveal meanings invisible before night's expansion. Books promise wisdom that previous readings had missed completely, and even mundane items like mirrors and candlesticks appear as potential tools for continued exploration of awareness territories that remain largely unmapped by contemporary psychology. Preparing for sleep after intensive consciousness expansion requires creating conditions that support integration of insights rather than simple forgetfulness through unconscious rest. The dreams that follow enhancement sessions often continue exploration in realms where physical limitations don't constrain experience, making proper preparation essential for maximizing educational value of entire nocturnal adventure, rather than merely its chemically enhanced phases. The reflection in your bedroom mirror shows someone who has crossed another threshold in ongoing transformation from conventional social role toward authentic individual existence that transcends inherited limitations and cultural conditioning. Physical appearance remains essentially unchanged, but relationship with identity itself has shifted fundamentally through direct experience of consciousness possibilities that conventional wisdom insists are impossible or dangerous to explore. Your morning awakening brings return to practical responsibilities and social obligations that continue requiring attention, despite profound alterations in understanding that have occurred through systematic consciousness expansion practice. The person who emerges from transformative dreams retains access to insights and capabilities developed during enhanced states, creating gradual accumulation of expanded awareness that eventually influences every aspect of daily existence. The absinthe ritual that begins each new day takes on deeper significance after every intensive exploration session, serving not merely as chemical enhancement, but as communion with forces that exist beyond ordinary perception, yet remain perpetually accessible to those committed to authentic existence rather than conventional security and social approval. Each glass represents another step in systematic development of human potential that mainstream society actively discourages through education, religion, and cultural pressure designed to maintain conformity with established limitations. Your daily correspondence with the outside world requires increasingly delicate navigation as the gap widens between your transformed consciousness and the conventional reality your family still inhabits. The letters you compose each morning demand careful attention to language that will reassure without revealing, comfort without confessing the true extent of your metamorphosis. Your mother's latest missive arrived yesterday, filled with gentle inquiries about your health and veiled concerns about rumors reaching respectable circles regarding the company you keep. The ink flows across cream-colored stationery as you craft responses that dance around truth while maintaining filial affection. You describe afternoon tea gatherings without mentioning the substances that transform ordinary conversation into philosophical revelation. You reference cultural events without detailing the consciousness expansion rituals that occur after conventional audiences depart. Each sentence requires diplomatic precision to maintain necessary connections while protecting the sacred work that now defines your existence. The morning light filtering through your apartment windows reveals dust particles dancing in patterns that seem to respond to your breathing, each mote following trajectories that suggest invisible currents flowing through space that appears empty to ordinary perception. The absinthe from last evening continues working subtle influences on your awareness, maintaining access to perceptual territories that will gradually fade but never completely disappear. These residual effects create foundation for today's explorations, while integrating yesterday's revelations into expanding understanding of consciousness possibilities. Your wardrobe selection reflects careful consideration of multiple audiences you'll encounter throughout the day's activities. The morning cafe gathering requires appearance that signals serious artistic commitment, while remaining approachable to newcomers seeking initiation into expanded awareness practices. The afternoon gallery opening demands elegance that will navigate conventional art circles without compromising your reputation among underground consciousness researchers. Evening destinations remain undetermined, creating necessity for versatility that can adapt to whatever opportunities emerge. The silk stockings slide against skin that retains heightened sensitivity from previous night's chemical enhancement, each fiber creating subtle electrical sensations that remind you of boundaries between physical and ethereal realms that systematic practice has revealed as far more permeable than conventional wisdom admits. Your undergarments serve practical functions while maintaining symbolic connections to transformation processes that continue operating beneath surface appearances that must satisfy ordinary social expectations. The mirror reflects someone who has learned to exist simultaneously in multiple realities, without losing coherence or authentic selfhood. The cosmetics you apply serve decorative purposes while functioning as ritual preparations that facilitate transition between different levels of consciousness throughout days' varying requirements. Each brushstroke contributes to creating persona capable of navigating territories that would overwhelm individuals still trapped within conventional identity limitations. Your descent through the building's narrow staircase carries you from private sanctuary toward public spaces where expanded awareness must operate within context designed for ordinary consciousness. The transition requires constant adjustment of perceptual focus to maintain access to enhanced understanding, while avoiding behaviors that might attract unwanted attention from authorities who view consciousness expansion as threat to established order. The morning air carries information that extends far beyond simple weather conditions, conveying emotional atmospheres and energetic currents that flow through Montmartre's unique geography. Your enhanced sensitivity detects subtle changes in collective mood that influence community activities throughout the district. Today's atmosphere suggests opportunities for breakthrough experiences that could advance both individual development and broader cultural transformation occurring within European artistic underground. The cafe that serves as your morning headquarters operates according to schedules that accommodate nocturnal populations whose most productive hours occur when respectable society sleeps. The proprietor recognizes regular customers through subtle signs that indicate membership in communities dedicated to authentic existence rather than conventional success. These commercial relationships create informal support networks that make continued experimentation possible, despite constant pressure from mainstream culture. Your usual table provides strategic positioning for observing intersection of multiple realities that coexist within single physical space. Conventional businessmen hurry past windows, heading toward offices where they'll spend entire days managing affairs they consider important, but which expanded awareness reveals as elaborate games designed to avoid confronting fundamental questions about existence and human potential. Their urgency creates comic contrast with leisurely pace adopted by individuals who have discovered priorities that transcend commercial achievement. The absinthe arrives with ceremonial attention that acknowledges its significance beyond simple beverage service. The ritual preparation creates meditation opportunity that connects morning activities with broader practices of consciousness expansion developed through months of systematic experimentation. Each step in the process serves both practical and symbolic functions, transforming ordinary consumption into sacramental act that opens doorways to enhanced perception. Marcel's arrival brings energy of someone who has spent entire night wrestling with artistic challenges that conventional techniques cannot address adequately. His latest painting attempts to capture psychological states that exist beyond ordinary emotional categories, using colors and forms that emerge only during chemically enhanced awareness. The work represents ongoing dialogue between expanded consciousness and physical materials that resist easy manipulation according to visionary intentions. His conversation flows with intensity of someone still partially immersed in creative trance that blurs boundaries between imagination and perception, between internal experience and external manifestation. The insights he shares emerge from territories of consciousness that remain inaccessible without proper preparation and chemical assistance. His words carry authority of direct experience rather than theoretical speculation, making them valuable contributions to collective understanding being developed by European consciousness research communities. Simone joins the gathering carrying manuscript pages that document psychological explorations conducted during previous evening's adventures in underground venues where enhanced awareness feels natural rather than aberrant. Her writing captures aspects of feminine experience that conventional literature systematically avoids or misrepresents, revealing truths about desire and spiritual development that organized religion refuses to acknowledge as legitimate subjects for serious investigation. Her readings from Work in Progress create intimate atmosphere that transforms public cafe into private salon where authentic communication becomes possible between individuals who share commitment to transcending artificial limitations imposed by social conditioning. The words she speaks aloud carry power to affect consciousness of listeners, demonstrating how artistic expression produced during expanded awareness retains transformative capabilities even after chemical effects have subsided. Jacques arrives with theatrical energy that suggests ongoing performance, where boundaries between authentic selfhood and constructed persona remain deliberately fluid. His approach to existence treats daily life as artistic medium, requiring constant creative attention to details that conventional people manage through unconscious habit. Every gesture, every word choice, every interaction becomes opportunity for conscious creation of reality according to aesthetic principles rather than mere practical efficiency. The conversation that emerges from your gathering explores territories that academic institutions refuse to acknowledge as legitimate subjects for scholarly investigation. The topics range from practical techniques for consciousness expansion to theoretical frameworks for understanding relationship between individual awareness and universal consciousness. Each participant contributes perspectives gained through direct experimentation rather than abstract speculation, creating dialogue that advances collective wisdom about human potential. Your morning companions represent different aspects of cultural revolution occurring within European artistic communities, where traditional boundaries between disciplines dissolve in favor of integrated approaches to consciousness development. The painter, writer, and performer share techniques and insights that cross conventional categories while maintaining respect for specialized knowledge that emerges from dedicated practice within particular fields of creative expression. The discussions naturally evolve toward planning afternoon and evening activities that will continue individual development while contributing to broader transformation of consciousness, occurring throughout continents' underground networks. Each suggestion is evaluated according to potential for meaningful experience, rather than simple entertainment, with careful attention to safety considerations that become increasingly important as experiments push toward unexplored territories. Your role in these planning sessions reflects accumulated wisdom about venues, substances, and companions that create optimal conditions for consciousness expansion, while minimizing risks that could terminate experimental existence prematurely. The knowledge you share emerges from months of systematic practice with enhancement techniques that have revealed both possibilities and dangers associated with systematic transcendence of ordinary limitations. The morning concludes with ritual consumption of final absinthe preparation that will maintain enhanced awareness throughout afternoon activities while creating foundation for evening's more intensive explorations. The chemical effects integrate with insights gained through social interaction to produce understanding that affects every subsequent choice about how to spend time and energy in pursuit of authentic existence rather than conventional achievement. Your departure from Café Sanctuary carries you into broader Montmartre community, where expanded consciousness must navigate contexts designed for ordinary awareness while maintaining access to perceptual territories that reveal hidden dimensions of apparent mundane activities. The transition requires constant adjustment of focus and behavior to avoid attracting unwanted attention while remaining true to authentic selfhood that has been developed through systematic practice with consciousness expansion techniques. The afternoon gallery opening that serves as your next destination represents intersection between legitimate art world and underground consciousness research communities. The event will attract mixture of conventional collectors seeking investment opportunities and serious practitioners interested in artistic expressions that emerge from expanded awareness. Your presence serves multiple functions, maintaining necessary social connections while gathering intelligence about cultural developments that could influence future exploration activities. The journey through district streets provides opportunities for continued observation of multiple realities operating simultaneously within same physical space. Conventional tourists seek sanitized glimpses of bohemian culture, while serious practitioners pursue authentic transformation that requires abandoning security in favor of meaningful risk. The contrast reveals fundamental divisions between individuals committed to growth and those satisfied with entertainment that confirms existing limitations rather than challenging them toward transcendence. Endance. As the sun sets over Montmartre's winding cobblestone streets, you realize that Céleste Dubois was never just a character in history's grand narrative. She was a pioneer who dared to dissolve the boundaries between reality and possibility, using absinthe as her key to unlock territories of consciousness that most people never knew existed. Through her journey from dutiful daughter to consciousness explorer, we glimpse what happens when someone chooses authentic experience over social approval, truth over comfort, and transformation over security. The Green Fairy didn't destroy her. It revealed who she was always meant to become.